Good morning from Israel. I know that for you it's not a morning, but in Israel it's a very sad day. And it's the beginning of a long week till the end of Sukkot, when we have many meetings to commemorate the days and the mourn the dead, and it's a very sad 2 weeks in Israel. But I want not to speak about the 7th of October, but about the situation of today, and I want to begin with Gaza, because everything, the beginning was there. If you look at the situation, the Iranians had strategic plan. They built around Israel what I called in the 2018 ring of fire. The strongest element within the ring of fire was Hezbollah. The second one was Hamas and Islamic Jihad, the combination in Gaza. Then they had militias in Syria, in Iraq, the Houthis in Yemen, and they try to build the Hamas in the West Bank. They made many efforts to bring in a lot of money and weapon systems, to smuggle it from either from Lebanon or from Jordan. This is the elements of the ring of fire when the Iranians had in mind a very interesting idea. They will remain outside the ring, far away, 1,500 kilometers away, and the collapse of Israel will come from the pressure that will be done by the proxies, all together in coordinated attack. They had been surprised in the 7th of October by Hamas, which made a decision without telling the Iranians and Hezbollah that they are initiating a war against Israel. And this is the 7th of October. The failure of the Israeli systems, it took us 48 hours to overcome. And the situation of Hamas in Gaza today, that Hamas is not relevant to the ring of fire system. No one asked what will be the reaction of Hamas when Haniya was assassinated in Tehran. No one asked what will be the reaction of Hamas in Gaza for the elimination of Muhammad Def, number 2 in the organization in Gaza. And no one asked where is Hamas when we are fighting today with Hezbollah and after the elimination of Nasrallah. Why nobody asked the question? Because Hamas in Gaza is not relevant anymore as a threat to the state of Israel. It is still relevant inside Gaza. They are leading how to call it, the humanitarian efforts in Gaza. They are still there. No one is in other than Hamas spreading the humanitarian aid which is going in. They are relevant to the IDF soldiers who are still fighting inside Gaza. We are now inside Jabalia in the north part of Gaza fighting. They are still relevant there, but as a threat to Israel, Hamas Gaza is not relevant anymore. They cannot organize a raid into Israel, to invade Israel by foot. They cannot launch rockets and missiles. They have some rockets and missiles, and probably some of them will be fired into Israel in the next few days. But they don't have the ability to produce. They don't have the ability to smuggle in. Israel is controlling the Philadelphia corridor between Gaza and Egypt. They don't have any real threat, and they cannot bring any threat into Israel, and they don't have a system. When we are going to Jabalia, when we are going to Khan Yunis now, after the first stage, we don't find any resistance in the way to the target. We can fight in the target. When we are getting to the center of Jabalia, we have to fight, and probably some soldiers will be injured or even killed. But the whole way from the border to Jabalia, we are doing by foot without any resistance from the other side. They don't have a system. They don't have the intelligence to collect. They don't have the operational system to organize the forces. They don't have the communication to control. They don't have the ability. There is no system. There are many members of Hamas that we have still to kill in Gaza, and we are doing it, and we will do it in the future. But there is no Hamas military system functioning in Gaza. There are Hamas members in some of the tunnels. They have two assets now. One is the hostages, and one is the ability of Sinwar to get out, if he's still alive, to get out and to say, I won. I survived the attack. But that's all. The Gaza Strip is in a second Nakba. They moved out of the 2 million people of Gaza. I think that 1.5 of them are living in tents near the seashore, not in their homes. 2/3 of their homes had been destroyed anyway. It's devastating situation for the people of Gaza and for Hamas as an organization and Islamic Jihad as organizations. They don't exist anymore. And it's very important to emphasize it because it led to two lessons. One, the success of Israel in Gaza symbolizing a very important effect in the West, in the Middle East. An organization which is doing what had been done by Hamas will not exist in the Middle East. We will do whatever is needed to destroy it completely. And we are in the middle of the process of destroying it. We will remain in Gaza at least another year with forces to clean Gaza from all the remnants of Hamas. Members of Hamas will be there, probably. Some will be able to survive. Will the idea of Hamas will be in the hearts and minds of Palestinians? Probably yes. You know, it's an old dream. It's based on the Muslim Brotherhood ideas. It's an organization which was organized in Egypt in 1928. So the idea will survive. But as a threat to Israel, it will not. And within a year, we will be in a position that militarily and probably internationally, Gaza will be another area, like a area in the West Bank, like Jenin. Now in Jenin, there is no even one Israeli soldier. But if tonight or 2 hours from now, 12 o'clock at noon, the intelligence officer of the Central Command will come in to his commander and say, Avi, I have a piece of information about the Hamas attempt to build something in Jenin. Within 5 hours or 3, IDF soldiers will be there to kill the guys and to destroy the facility. That will be the situation in Gaza a year from now. A big area. Who will control the civilian system? I don't know. Many voices here in Israel wants it to be the Palestinian Authority. The government doesn't agree to that. The IDF is very reluctant to take responsibility for that. I justify them. It's very costly, and it's not going to be easy, and we will be moving targets. It will be a mistake. But I don't know who will be there, an Arab state or Arab states in plural. I don't know. But militarily, it will be clear. Israel has full operational control of Gaza Strip. It will be like a big area A. We are not responsible for the civilian life, but we have all the ability to fight any attempt by any group to rebuild a military threat against Israel. Parallel to the end of stage 1, the dismantling of Hamas in Gaza, something happened in Lebanon. You know, in Lebanon, Nasrallah decided to launch a quasi war against Israel in the 8th of October, a year ago. He didn't want a full war. At the beginning, they tried to help Palestinians infiltrate into Israel. We killed all those groups. We had some casualties in our side, but none of these 7 attempts to infiltrate into Israel, none of them succeeded. All of them had been killed or near the, or before they crossed the fence, or immediately after they crossed the fence. And they changed, and it became kind of exchange of fire between our side and their side. Kind of game area within which each side could launch its fire. And we hadn't been well organized for defensive war. And we did it within a week. We were there with forces big enough to prevent any attempt by Hezbollah to cross the border, and at the same time having a strong surveillance capabilities. And during the first 11 months, we killed probably between 500 and 600 terrorists of Hezbollah and other organizations. We destroy many facilities of Hezbollah near the border. We had to evacuate 60,000 formally, but practically 80,000 Israelis from the north, and more than 100 had been evacuated from the south part of Lebanon, on the other side of the border. After 3 months of exchange of fire, we begin to send special forces into South Lebanon to touch the facilities, to locate them precisely, so it will be easier targets for the Air Force, to destroy what could be destroyed under these circumstances, and to prepare the area for ground forces in the future. In 7 months, we made more than 200 raids of special forces into the South Lebanon, preparing the area for the next stage. We didn't have clear idea when will be the next stage, how to do it. We understood that that should be done not parallel to the war, to the extensive operation in Gaza, but kind of a tandem immediately after, or with kind of a pause between the two efforts. But you know, you don't control everything, and the bitter night was the point of change. Many years we prepared we entered to the communication hardware of Hezbollah. We installed inside kind of explosive, and the idea was to use it during the war. What happened is that was exposed too early by someone in Hezbollah, and we decided, in a situation of use it or lose it, to use it. And we injured around 2,000 members of Hezbollah in the medium level of command, and a few hundred had been killed. The day after, we did it with another communication facility, walkie-talkies that they have, and that was the beginning of the new situation in Lebanon. Within 2 or 3 months, we succeeded to eliminate all the leadership, the military leadership of Hezbollah, from Nasrallah down. I think that one was remained. With the killing of Ibrahim Akil in the Dahya, we killed the whole leadership of the special forces of Hezbollah. There are 1 forces. None was survived. One, I think, from the old, from the whole old guard of the leadership of Hezbollah, the people that I dealt with when I was young, Talal Hamia is the only one which survived. He is responsible for the most secret part of the organization capabilities in Lebanon and outside Lebanon, and he is the only which survived up till now. So the situation is a very peculiar one. Hezbollah doesn't have today anyone who can make decision. Even the one which was elected or was supposed to be elected as the successor of Nasrallah was eliminated as well last week. So Hezbollah as an organization does not have an agreed leadership. There is no leader which was elected, and the decisions are made probably kind of a group which was the second generation of the leaders of Hezbollah is making the decisions now. Parallel to the elimination of the leadership, we succeeding to strike probably 40% of the missiles that they have. But more important than the percentage is the fact that we took out, or we succeeded to eliminate the majority within the long and medium range missiles and many of the accurate missiles that they had. So Hezbollah was crippled within 2-3 weeks. Twice the leadership disappeared, no Nasrallah down, and the many capabilities that they had, and for them the most important capability, including the accurate missiles, had been destroyed by the Air Force, and we are continuing. Every day we are bombing more and more, and we are stripping it for more and more capabilities. It's a process which is taking part every day and every night. We are continuing. Not about the leadership. The leadership doesn't exist, but about stripping capabilities and to kill more medium level commanders. So to eliminate even the possibility on the ground to nominate other commanders. Last weekend, few days ago, we did the first move of going into Lebanon with ground forces. At the moment, is only about the first 2 regions which are controlling the communities in the north, above the Israeli settlements, kibbutzim, moshavim, and Metula, just to take the ability of Hezbollah to control by sight the first line of our communities, and to minimize its ability to launch direct hits, mainly Cornet anti-missile, anti-tank missiles into those communities. Of course, they can continue to use their missiles and rockets. So this is another issue, but to push them out of the range of sight into the Israeli communities in the north. This is the first step. The Americans don't like the fact that we invaded Lebanon with ground forces. We have to do it very carefully and cautiously. We are broadening the area in which we have ground forces to the west. There are some important places that we have to take there to minimize the ability to launch rockets and missiles into Haifa, which is the closest big city into the border. But we have to do the push to the north in a slow mood and cautiously, because the Americans don't like it. And what happened new in the last few days is the Iranians had to expose themselves. The Iranians had an open question with us after the elimination of Hania. They launched 300 projectiles into Israel in 14th of April, after Israel killed in what they call embassy. No diplomat was there, but the whole leadership of the Quds force in the Levant. Big blow for the Iranians. And by the way, they nominated a new leader, and he was disappeared in in the night that we killed Nasrallah. I don't know if he was there or not. Anyhow, not the night that we killed Nasrallah, two nights later. He disappeared. I don't know where is he. He was not in the list of those which we tried to kill, but maybe he was escorted another guy from Hezbollah and he was killed. Anyhow, the Iranians, after the Israeli ride into what they call the embassy in Damascus, launched 300 projectiles into Israel. Israel reaction was to reach a very, how to call it, sensitive target, not far from a nuclear project, to show that we can reach Iran, we can reach the target and destroy it, and the Iranians do not have any answer to this challenge. This is why the Iranians hesitated for a long time after the assassination of Haniya, but the combination of the assassination of Haniya in Tehran, the success to kill Nasrallah in Lebanon, and the Iranian general which escorted him, all together made them furious, and they decided to do it again, and they launched into Israel almost 200 ballistic missiles. Here, the main ability to thwart the Iranians' attack is in our capabilities. It's mainly Arrow 2 and 3. The success was very big success. No Israeli was killed. You know, karma is a bitch. There is one person was killed. He's an Arab Palestinian who left Gaza, moved to Jericho, and he was killed in the street. This is the only casualties that Israel has, a Palestinian from Gaza living in Jericho. And there were some targets which had been hit, mainly Air Force bases, but no any real effect, and no one was injured or killed. And now Israel is in a stage in which we have to make a decision what we are doing as reaction to that. It was not decided yet. We are in contact with the Americans, because the Americans said before the attack that if they attack will be consequences, and the Americans have to show what consequences they meant. And we are in a dialogue with the Americans. The Americans are very reluctant to take part in such a raid, but Israel will not have probably any other choice but to attack Iran and to show the Iranians that there is a price. Because up till now, the Iranians were far away without paying any price in Iran. They paid here in Lebanon. They lost some generals and members of Al-Quds forces, but in Iran they didn't pay any price, and we should show them that there is a price for the attempt to attack Israel. So Israel now is facing three very active fronts. One is Lebanon, one is Iran, the third one are the Houthis, which from time to time launching missiles into Israel. The militias in Iraq from time to time sending drones into Israel. They even succeeded to injure some soldiers in the Golan Heights. The drone came the whole way from Iraq. And up till now, touch wood, they didn't succeed to ignite the West Bank. They're making huge attempt to do it, pouring money and weapon into it, paying people, recruiting people. But the Shabak with the IDF is very active in the West Bank. We probably arrested around 6,000 people and killed almost 700. I mean, it's operations every day and every night. We first time use even an F-16 to bomb a target in the West Bank. That is very, 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 very rare. But they didn't succeed to ignite the area, and the area is calm. we cannot be guaranteed for the future, but it's a very important achievement of the IDF and the Israeli government to stay calm in the West Bank. So just to sum it up, in Gaza we are in stage 2, less intensive when Hamas is not relevant anymore as a threat to Israel. We are slowly eroding its capabilities and killing its people in Gaza Strip. In Lebanon, we are in the middle of the beginning of the bigger war, when we took the globes and killed the whole, took off the globes and killed the whole leadership of Hezbollah. We're at beginning first steps of invasion, of ground invasion into Lebanon, and continuing to bomb every target that we can in Lebanon by the Air Force. From time to time, we are active in Syria as well, but the main effort now is preparations for a retaliation in Iran. What retaliation, how big, when it will be done is discussed now within our system and between us and the Americans. So this is the situation. We have some international challenges. Not all the governments understand what Israel is doing. People in the West don't like wars. They don't understand why we killed so many Palestinians. By the way, almost half of them are terrorists, and the ratio of 1-to-1 killing terrorists within urban civilian area is much better than the American experience, the British experience, the French experience. In all their wars, they kill much more civilians versus each terrorist. But still, the United Nations is against us. Some non-governmental organizations, there are demonstrations all over the world against Israel, mainly by Palestinians and Muslims, but locals joining as well in some places. It's not easy now. The big test of Israel, and this is why it's so emphasized so important to emphasize, is the ability of Israel to revive the economy after the war. The economy is suffering a lot. The cost of the war is very high. We know that we will have to add a lot of money to the defensive budget of Israel in the next few years, leave alone the cost of the war itself, but to build the forces afterwards. So the economy is one of our most challenging points, and here it's one of the tests of the Jewish communities all around the world, when it would be needed, or now it is needed, to invest in Israel, not by buying an empty apartment in Jerusalem, but by investing in the Israeli market to revive the economy. That would be the big test. By the way, 90% of the Israelis which had been evacuated from the envelope of Gaza are back at home. There are 3 kibbutzim that we have to rebuild from scratch, and it will take 2 years. They are living in other areas. They didn't come back to the envelope, but in Sderot and all the other Yishuvim there, the number of Israelis who are back is around 90%. In the north, no one is going back yet. It will take a few months before we will see the first Israelis going back to their homes. Many homes, around 1,000 probably, had been destroyed by Hezbollah, by direct hits of anti-tank missiles and Katyushas and so on. So it will be a huge project to rebuild. Not even one settlement was captured by Hezbollah, but they destroyed many houses in the kibbutzim and Metula and even Kiryat Shmona. So economically, it will be a big burden. In the south, we have an agreed plan which was decided by the government finance. There is a budget, 19 billion shekel, by the way, to rebuild everything in the envelope of Gaza, bigger, stronger, and greener. In the north, we don't have a plan yet. There is someone was nominated to be responsible for it. It will take time. But it is the first steps to make a different situation in the north as it is in the south, so that the citizens can go back to their homes. It will take time. So this is the situation, and you have any question, if it's not a gossip, I'm more than happy to answer.
Please unmute yourself before you ask.
I didn't understand it. I was so good that no one wants to ask any questions.
General,
Yes.
what's happening with the hostages? Is there any,
same question.
any intelligence?
No, there is not. As far as I know, there is nothing new about the hostages. They are still in, as I said, these are the two assets that Hamas has. The forces, for the forces in Gaza, and there is a full divisional headquarters which is there. For them, it's mission number one, but at least in public, there is nothing new about the hostages.
What about Iran? Will Israel take action against Iran?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Will you repeat your question?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, what sort of action do you think Israel will take against Iran, given that Biden has said you can't hit the oil and you can't hit the nuclear facilities? I mean, what does he expect to hit Luna Park? What will Israel do?
I don't know. We are now discussing it within our system and with dialogue with the Americans. And we will have to make the decision and decide what we do. I don't know what will be the American part in that, because as I said, they said will be consequences, and I don't see any consequences up till now that the Americans are leading. If worst come to worst, we have to do it by ourselves, and what targets will be picked by the decision makers, I don't know.
Can I ask you, what about the uptake of soldiers to serve on Miluim? Has that been maintained? Has there been some sort of tiredness for having been involved in the South for so long, that soldiers are still coming or not coming when they're called up, particularly for the North now?
The reserve forces are a very important element in the ability of Israel to wage a long war. It cannot be done just by the regulars. And there are some units, some brigades, and that had been recruited 3 or 4 times since the beginning of the war, and now they are very much involved in the war in Lebanon. At least one reserve brigade is inside Lebanon, and many are waiting in the north for the next stage when it comes. At the beginning, more than they had been in the list came to the units. If the list is 100 soldiers, in many units it was 110 and 120, because people volunteered in spite of the fact that they were not anymore part of the active reserve forces. But after the serving few hundred days in Gaza and in the north, now it is the first time that in some of the reserve unit we see people are saying, I cannot. My business is collapsing. My family cannot have it again. We are still keeping the 100% we are still meeting the 100% of the need, but we don't have any more volunteers above the 100%. And the longer the war will be conducted and the more that they will be recruited for, it would be more complicated because businesses and families is something that the army does have the ability to deal with. We are allocating a huge support to support the reserve soldiers, but still we cannot take as a country, as a state, the responsibility for their businesses and their families. So up till now, we don't have a problem, but we can see the situation in which it will be a problem. The longer the war, the more problems will be arise by those soldiers which had been recruited 3 or 4 times. What we are doing is to bring back soldiers and commanders which had been taken out of the reserve forces in the last few years because of age and there was not a need and so on and so forth. And slowly, you are building kind of a reserve to the reserve. Those who didn't serve in the last few years because they were not needed, but still have the capacity within few weeks to go back to the level of readiness, which is the minimum which is needed. And we are working very hard to identify them, to bring them back. And I believe that in the next few months, we will have reserve to the reserve to make easier to get the 100% needed soldiers in every unit. It's not easy. It's one of the burdens which Israel will have to take. There is mainly economic side to that. And this is why I said that after the war, the main challenge will be to revive the economy. And for that, we need investment from outside Israel. The main problem of Israel now is the ratio between debts and GNP. Israel began the war in a very good position economically, with less than 60% of the GNP as debts. Net debts to Israel are more than the net debts of Israel to the world. So from the debts point of view relative to our GNP, relative to what the world is owing us and what we are owing the world, our situation was very, very good. Now we jumped from 60% to, there is an argument between the economists, to 72, 74. And if the war in Lebanon intensified within the next few months, it will probably jump to 80, 85. And this is the beginning of a very bad situation. We will have to pay much more for our debts in the future because of the that's a price that we will have to pay in this situation. The question is how far we can go with that, and when is the beginning of a change in which the debts will go down and the need of the IDF will be met with numbers which the economy can bear upon itself. In spite of the fact it's clear it will be more money than before. We will have to increase the defensive budget. It was 4.5, 4.7 of the GNP. It will probably jump to 6 or even 7. For how long and what is the tempo of changing it, when we decrease the invest in the, these are the questions that we are dealing with within there is a committee which was nominated by the Prime Minister, the Minister of Defense and Minister of Finance, and that's what we are trying to understand in this committee. How long can we bear?
Amidror is a member of this committee.
How long we can bear the burden and where to invest the money in the future. It's I cannot say anything about the committee, but that it is it's very complicated.
Can I ask a question, Yaakov?
Yes.
So far, the missile defense, thank God, has knocked out all the missiles coming over. If there's going to be a barrage of missiles coming from Iraq, Iran, Syria, do you believe our missile defense system can handle the barrage? A second question, as I may have missed it, but did you say how long you believe Israel forces will be in Lebanon?
About the first question, there is no answer to the question, because in each event, the system is assessing the situation and deciding what to intercept, not to intercept. And if the number will be such that the system cannot absorb it, the system will make decisions not to intercept. And will be areas or missiles which will not be intercepted. Not because we launch an interceptor into it, but the system decided not to intercept. By the way, it's part of the system today. If a missile identified by the system as one which is going to non-urban area without people living there, the system does not intercept it. And if the numbers will come to a level in which it will be too much for the system is smart enough to make decision not to intercept. And will be areas in which we will not intercept, no question. If the numbers will be, I don't know, thousands. Up till now, we didn't have such a situation, but it might come. And this is one of the reasons why we understand that we should invest more in our capacities to manufacture much more interceptors. How many? Everyone can suggest number, but it will be a higher number than today. It's very costly, by the way. A night of interception like the one which we had 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, to intercept 200 missiles, ballistic missiles, it's between $1 to $2 billion. It's huge numbers. Dollars, American dollars, not Australian and not Canadian. So technically, a situation like you described is a possibility that we are taking into account. The system knows what to do. And the meaning of it is less interceptions in some areas. For the second question, I don't have an answer. It very much depends what pressure will be Hezbollah will feel and Lebanon will feel, and how far the world is ready to put pressure on both of them. I think that today it is too early to speak about it. We have to continue the pressure on Hezbollah to strip it from more capabilities and to push it more to the north. And when we decide that it is enough, it will be the time to begin to think and to ask other countries to interfere and to try to get an agreement. But in any agreement, it's going to be a very problematic agreement from the Hezbollah point of view. There is a decision of the United Nations from 2006, 1701. It's clear in the decision that Hezbollah cannot be in the south. Hezbollah should be dismantled because in Lebanon will be only one military organization, it's the Lebanese army. Nothing was fulfilled since then, not even one letter from the decision of the United Nations. To achieve it, Hezbollah will have to agree to something which is very problematic from its point of view. And it's too early. The Hezbollah does not feel yet that this is the situation. And by the way, I'm not sure that there is one today, there is anyone within Hezbollah who can make such a decision.
Can I ask? Sorry, Further to Doug's question about the hostages, which might be a bit unsatisfactory to all, but can I ask, where do we think they are, and and are they still alive, do you believe?
We know that there are still alive hostages.
Yep.
I don't know the number, but the guys who are responsible for not have a more accurate number. Not about everyone we have all the information, but about many of them we have information. Those which had been killed and those who are still alive. We believe that they are still in Gaza. They didn't succeed to smuggle them out. Where exactly, I don't know. And those who know don't speak about it.
So it's still in Gaza and still alive. Positive, isn't it?
They are still in Gaza, and some of them, or many of them, are still alive, yes.
So that's a positive at least.
You know, positive is very relative.
In a bad situation.
Yeah.
Does the issue with France and England holding back ammunition, is that a major issue for Israel?
Not at all. With France, we buy from France, I don't know, $30 million. France is not important. It's a symbolic declaration of how to say, someone who does not understand anything in the Middle East. But it's not important. With Britain, it's more complicated because they are part of the chain of production of the Americans in some areas. But out of the 150 elements which we are buying in Britain, they boycotted only 30. They had to, I don't justify them, but they had to show the court in Britain that they are considering all the circumstances. There is a law in Britain that they have to take into consideration, but again, it's more symbolic than practical from our point of view. Other than America and Germany, in which we are buying our submarines, and that was not stopped. Very few munition and spare parts we are buying outside those two countries. As I said, in French is almost nothing, and with Britain it's more significant. But we have all the ways to bypass it, and anyhow, it is only 30 elements out of 150.
Can I ask a technical question?
Yes.
Sorry, Greg, you can go.
No,
I've been
it's
hogging the floor. Okay, in terms of the difference between ballistic missiles and normal kind of missiles, non-ballistic, the speed is more relevant in ballistic. Does that, and they travel, as I understand it, I'm certainly not an expert in that field. It's like trying to shoot a bullet with a bullet in terms of a ballistic missile. How does that impact the Iron Dome, the sling, and any other kind of interceptor systems that we have?
No, the ballistic systems can be intercepted only by Arrow 2 and 3. Iron Dome is too low, and the two systems with which we are intercepting most of the ballistic missiles, which are above the atmosphere, this is the difference, is by Arrow 2 and 3. All the missiles which are under the atmosphere, and this is the majority coming from Lebanon, all of those who are coming from Lebanon. In Lebanon, they don't have ballistic missiles. We are intercepting with the Iron Dome. The David Sling is in the middle. It can take low targets, including ballistic missiles. And if it is more sophisticated maneuvering target, David Sling is better to deal with. In many cases, it is like the back shooter in soccer. They are taking what the Iron Dome didn't succeed. because of any technical issue, because they are very, very fast, and they can do both low and high, not higher as the arrow, but it is 10 times more expensive than the Iron Dome, each interceptor. So, here it's coming the economy, and we try to intercept whatever can be intercepted by Iron Dome, to do it with Iron Dome, and the ballistic missiles anyhow cannot be done by Iron Dome. So the question is not the rise; it's the Earth 2 and 3.
Okay, can I say something? First of all, General Amidror, good to see you. Good to see you, Ephraim. And our heart is with you. Listen, I've just got 3 very short questions. One is, have you had any big surprises in regard to the missile technology that you are engaged in at the moment? It's a short question.
No, the answer is very short. No.
Good. Okay, great. Second question, I assume there will be an increase in business taxes and personal taxes after this war. And the third question is, when you talk about, just elaborate in regard to investing in the market, what are the priorities? What, if you talk to an investor, you say, well, okay.
It's very much connected to two questions. We understand that there are 3 sources to finance the war and the need of the IDF afterwards. One is debts. Israel can, in its basic economic situation, can take more debts and to raise the ratio between the debts and the GNP. All the professionals are saying that it is a bad decision because the ratio is a very important factor of Israel to pay the long-range debts that we have. The price of the money will be very high if the ratio will change and will be close to what many other countries have, but they are not Israel. But the fact that we begin with the war with 60% debts versus our GNP is a good beginning, because we have kind of a buffer in which we still can take debts from the war. The second source are taxes, and direct taxes in Israel are very high. In the highest point, it's more than 50%, 50 point something. But it is a source of money, which we can be used in the future, and it will be part of the financing decisions after or during the next budget. The other source is to cut the civilian budget for education, health, whatever. This is a possibility that the finance ministry is considering. The problem is that Israel is very low relative to OECD countries when it is coming to civilian budget. We're investing less than the average in almost every civilian element of our life. We are very efficient. We are investing much less than other modern countries, members of the OECD, in health system, for example. But the health system of Israel is one of the best in the world. So how to balance it, and where to put from where to take the taxes, and where to cut the budget of the civilian elements, it's a question that the
economists will handle.
Is here now one of the big debates within the experts and in the finance ministry and ministry of and the prime minister's office. As a committee, we will have to decide one big economic decision, one big economic decision is what will be the amount of money which we are allocating for defensive budget, and then to recommend that we are not making the decision where to take how to finance it, through taxes, to cutting in the and so on. So this is we don't have an answer. We are in beginning. For example, if the war in Lebanon will be a longer one, in which we will have much more expenses, and the money is needed now. It's not needed 10 years from now. It's needed now. It's a one situation. If the war will be very short, and we will not have much more expenses in the north, it's another situation. What will be with the war with Iran versus Iran? Or from the other side, from the more optimistic point of view, at the end of the war, Hamas is not part of the enemies that we have to take into consideration when we are building the capabilities of the IDF. It's more, it's like broadening the eight areas in the West Bank. It's not an enemy which we have to take into consideration when you build the IDF in the future. You need another brigade, infantry brigade, just to continue to policing it. What will be the situation of Hezbollah? It will be a weaker Hezbollah, very weaker Hezbollah. We need put less money for preparing ourselves for the next war with Hezbollah, and so on and so forth. It very much depends how many expenses will we have in the next year, and what enemies we are going to meet at the end of the year. If for these expenses we will have less enemies, from the economic point of view, it's much better situation. Because what I don't have to tell you, I'm speaking to you, no, I preach to the choir. The more optimistic is the horizon, the easier it is for the economy. If you end the war with a much weaker Hezbollah and weaker Iran, and you succeeded to deter Iran, and Hamas is not anymore an active enemy, in spite of the fact that you use huge money to get to this situation, for the economy it's a better situation because the future is better. So it's very much depends where we will stand a year from now.
Understood.
Can I just have a couple of, I'll have an observation. I'm actually surprised that the defense budget of Israel is actually comparably low compared to Greece, for example. I remember the former president of the United States, when he was complaining about the lack of effectiveness and contribution of the EU countries, or NATO, singled out Greece as being a large contributor and being close to the 4% he wanted all of them to pay. And Greece hasn't been in active wartime duty for decades, but I suppose the economy of Greece is a lot smaller than Israel. The other comment I'd make is it's actually, to me, it's a very simple proposition.
No, I'm speaking about percentage. You speak about percentage. The Israeli economy is probably 10 times, if not 20 times bigger than Cyprus.
I think it's
By the
fairly
way,
simple.
our GNP, was more than $500 billion.
It's larger. I did comment it's larger. I think it's very simple, and that is that you invest in business in Israel. You find a reason to invest, and when you invest in Israel, the businesses and the corporations that are receiving your investment will pay their taxes, and they'll employ people, and they'll pay their taxes. That is the simplest way to assist, I would thought. I've found a reason that Doug knows to invest into Israel. I'm a non-Israeli and I'm a non-Jew. So we can all find reasons. Can I ask a more pertinent question? That is, I noted that you indicated where you thought circumstances are with Hamas and Hezbollah, and they've been weakened significantly. I wish to divert for a moment and say, I think it would be an error to divert attention and say they're weakened significantly and reduce the budget against them. I think they still need to be at bay, hence where Israel was a year ago by taking the eye off the ball a little bit. Israel can't afford to take its eye off the ball even for a second, I think, where it is.
No, that was agreed. The question is how much. The question is not if we will increase the budget. The budget will be increased, no question. The question is how much and where to put the money.
I understand that. Can I ask, where do you think the end game is with, okay, Hezbollah is weakened, Hamas is weakened. You've hinted that Iran is not necessarily weakened, but weak. I don't know whether it's weakened or weak, and that it's just all huff and no puff. Where's the end game with Iran? Because Iran's holds all the chips here, and they're playing the chips. What's the end game with Iran? How does it deal with it?
I must say that the Iran is, look, Iran is a big issue. Unlike many Arab states, you know, many years ago, I was in Egypt and I met the head of the intelligence. He's not anymore there. And we spoke about the Middle East, and he said, General, you know, in the Middle East, there are only real 4 states. I said, General, what are the 4 states that you are speaking about? He said, Egypt, of course, Iran, Turkey, and Israel. And I asked, what about the other Arab countries? And he said, those are families with flags. It was his words, family with flags. Iran is a real state, a deep state with the economy, with the academia. If you look at the papers in the academia relating to physics, they are publishing more than Israel. They are producing cars in millions. They have industry. They have a system. Iran is another issue. To deal with Iran is not another Arab state. It is something different. To deal with Iran, Israel will have to go to a very long period in which we will have to focus and to bring much more resources to deal not just with the military side of Iran, not just the nuclear side of Iran, but with the regime itself. Something that Israel didn't make in the past. We don't have any experience. But if you ask me for the long range, what is the only way to deal with Iran is to topple the regime. How to do it? I don't have a clue. Israel doesn't have. We don't have an experience. But we understand that it is not something that can be solved with this raid of the Air Force or another strike of the Air Force, or I don't know, or operation of the special forces, if it will be done. It is something different that Israel will have to reorganize itself to deal with in the next decade, at least, if not longer than that. It's a separate question from the one which we are asking ourselves today, how to deal with the Iranian military threat, which is a question that we are asking ourselves, and we will allocate the money. In the budget will be a part which will be allocated to deal with the military threat of Iran. If you speak about Iran as a state, as a nation, it's a long-range issue which will have to be dealt differently. I'm not sure that we have even the organization system to do it as we are speak today. We will have to do something different in Israel, because we never had such a problem. Far away, 1,500 kilometers, not close to the border, an enemy, a very active one, which the state itself is very strong, even with all the problems that they are facing in Iran. And very bad economy, very many problems within the minorities and the central regime. It's very corrupted system, bottom up and top down, very corrupted system. You cannot get almost anything in Tehran without paying someone out of the system. So it's very corrupt, but still it's a very serious state that we will have to deal with. And the question that you raised is a very important one. We understand that it is a different issue. We understand that it is a challenge that we never faced in the past. And we have to deal it with two different chronological decisions. One is about facing the military threat. That's what we are doing today. This is what we will react tomorrow, whenever the decision will be taken. And the other one is how we organize ourselves for a long range kind of dialogue with the Iranians, in which we will have to deal with the military, the nuclear, and the existence of the regime.